Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. The United Nations says 3 Eritreans living in a refugee camp in Ethiopia's Tigray region have been killed in an airstrike on Wednesday. 2 of the dead are said to be children. Several other people were injured in the attack on the Mai Aini camp. UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi said refugees should never be a target, calling on the Ethiopian government forces and Tigrayan rebels to respect civilians. Conflicts in that region broke out in November 2020. Meanwhile, Ethiopia has dismissed accusations by a new Human Rights Watch report that said thousands of ethnic Tigrayans deported from Saudi Arabia were facing detention and forced disappearance upon arrival. Government spokesperson at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs describes the accusations as fabrications and that the report is part of a concerted effort to put pressure on the government. Dina Mufti adds that the Human Rights Watch has several fictions about Ethiopia and that this report is one of those fictions. Rights groups have often accused authorities of profiling ethnic Tigrayans living in the capital Addis Ababa and other cities since war broke out 14 months ago in the northern part of the country. Closures of businesses owned by Tigrayans and arbitrary detentions are some of the allegations raised against the government. Well, humanitarians on the ground in Ethiopia are saying the situation in the northern part of the country remains unpredictable and volatile. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric is now urgently calling on all parties to allow access to people in Tigray, Amhara and Afar.
Our humanitarian colleagues telling us that the situation in the northern part of the country remains unpredictable and volatile. In Tigray, the humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate, with tensions restricting the movement of humanitarian supplies along the only available route from Semera to Abala to Mekele. No trucks carrying humanitarian supplies have been able to enter Tigray since December 15th. To recap, since July 12th, only 1,338 trucks have entered Tigray, which is less than 12% of the trucks we need to get in. As we've been telling you many times, we need about 100 trucks every day to meet the humanitarian needs of people in Tigray. As of January 3rd, our partners who are distributing food in Tigray have only as of January 3rd, our partners who've been distributing food in Tigray have around 10,000 liters of fuel left. At least 60,000 liters of fuel are needed to dispatch the limited food supplies that are currently available in Mekele. Several UN and non-UN and non-governmental organizations will be forced to cease operations if humanitarian supplies, fuel and cash are not delivered to Tigray very soon.
Thousands of people in Sudan have once again protested against military rule. This follows the resignation of Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok. Well, in the capital Khartoum, the security services fired tear gas at the demonstrators near the presidential palace. According to the Central Committee of Doctors in Sudan, one protester was shot dead in demonstrations in the capital's twin city, Omdurman. There were also marches in other places, including Port Sudan, at Bara and Wad Madani. Some bridges between Khartoum and the adjoining cities of Omdurman and Bari were closed ahead of the rally. Sudan's armed forces, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, staged a coup in October, and that triggered a wave of protests and also international condemnation. So far, efforts to resolve the crisis have failed. Tanzania's Parliament Speaker, Job Ndugai, has resigned. Now, this is coming days after clashing with the president over the government's external loans. The speaker said his resignation was a personal and voluntary decision taken in the interest of the nation. President Samia Suluhu Hassan had accused him of planning to sabotage her for political reasons after he commented about the country's loans. The president had just announced a new loan from the International Monetary Fund when the speaker commented that the country was at risk of being auctioned because of loans. However, Mr. Ndugai issued a public apology to President Samia, but she rejected it, saying that everything that was happening had to do with political interests in the 2025 general elections. We have joining us now for more on this is Hassan Bumbuli, a Tanzanian journalist joining us from Dar es Salaam. Thank you so much for speaking to us. What more can you tell us about this row between the president and the parliament speaker who has now resigned?
Okay, thank you very much. It was not about the quarrel or the fight. When it comes, where it started, you know, when the government or the president went to the international meeting in the US, she requested or she asked for, she seek for loans that have low interest, so that she can come and help the country in some ways, in some infrastructure issues and others. And you know, when this come, the COVID loan, which is have low interest, the president agreed to take the loan, and the loan passes through all the process in Tanzania, including the parliament, who agreed through his committee of finance, agreed on how the government planned to use that loans to build infrastructure in schools, hospitals, and other like water and other issues. So after that, a group of some people starting to question down. They didn't show up. So when these things happen, when the Speaker of the Parliament came out and started to question, not only questioning, criticizing the act of the president, why the president is going to seek for loans, while we have the parliament passed a scheme of collecting money through mobile phone charges.
Well, now that the parliament speaker has resigned, who would be taking over this position?
Yeah, regarding who is going to take the position, is still undercover, because only yesterday the speaker tendered his letter of resignation. So we are waiting for the Chama cha Mapinduzi maybe to come with a plan of people who are taking form inside the party, and then it goes to the several meetings that can pass the name, and then we can know who is going to that position. But on my view, I think the Vice Speaker, Honorable Tulia Ackson, she proved that she can be capable of taking this position because she's Vice Speaker, and she's doing well on her job. And I think if she's going to take the form, I think she'll be the best candidate. But if in CCM they will see someone else, but I think it also be good. On my opinion, I think the Vice Speaker can take that position and the country can move forward. But you know, when it comes to this situation, we have to go and elect. We have to go to the Constitution, what the Constitution says, and what the Constitution of the ruling party saying, so that they can take someone to the position.
Thank you so much, Hassan Bumbuli, Tanzanian journalist. Well, Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi has met with Comoros President Azali Assoumani. The meeting started upon Wang's arrival in Comoros, and that's the last leg of his three-nation African tour. In an address, Wang said mutual understanding, trust and support are a very important tradition for bilateral ties. He says China will be providing Comoros with sufficient vaccines to combat coronavirus this year. The foreign minister also adds that China is willing to enhance cooperation with the country on infrastructure and also improve people's lives. Well, before arriving in Comoros, Wang Yi visited Eritrea and Kenya. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta has lauded the country's partnership with China during a tour of the new Kipevu oil facility in Mombasa. President Kenyatta said that the new terminal will save 2 billion Kenyan shillings that's lost annually to demurrage, and differently from the old terminal, will also allow fleets to lose less time to offload their fuel. He added that Kenya needed no lectures but partners to help the country achieve what it requires.
Our partnership with China is not a partnership based on China telling us what we need. It is a partnership of friends working together to meet Kenya's socio-economic agenda. We needed this facility to be able to cater for those demands. And China was there when we asked for partnership in developing it. They were there ready to walk with us hand in hand. And that indeed is what you call a friend. We do not need lectures about what we need. We need partners to help us achieve what we require.
To COVID-19 stories now. The World Health Organization is appealing for fair sharing of vaccines amid a sharp rise in incidence of global weekly COVID-19 cases. According to WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus, the world has seen a new peak of COVID-19 cases reported last week, and scientific tools, including vaccines, need to be shared fairly and quickly with all countries.
Last week, the highest number of COVID-19 cases were reported so far in the pandemic. And we know for certain that this is an underestimate of cases because reported numbers do not reflect the backlog of testing around the holidays, the number of positive self-tests not registered, and burdened surveillance systems that miss cases around the world. While Omicron does appear to be less severe compared to Delta, especially in those vaccinated, it does not mean it should be categorized as mild. Just like previous variants, Omicron is hospitalizing people and it's killing people. First-generation vaccines may not stop all infections and transmission, but they remain highly effective in reducing hospitalization and death from this virus.
The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, has said severe lockdowns are no longer the best way to deal with coronavirus waves. Governments are now being urged to use public health and social measures to reduce the number of virus infections. There should also be an emphasis on vaccinations, as according to the Africa Center for Disease Control Director. Several countries experienced new waves of infection towards the end of last year, and South Africa attributed the recent surge in cases to the new variant Omicron.
We are very encouraged with what we saw in South Africa during this period, where they look at the data in terms of severity, and they actually did what we are encouraging countries to do, to really say that the period where we were using lockdown as a tool, severe lockdown as a tool, is over. We should actually be looking at how we use public health and social measures more carefully and in a balanced way as the vaccination increases. Unless and until by the end of this year, the continent actually scale up its vaccination to above 70 or 80%, my worry is that we might actually be at the end of this year into a scenario where COVID becomes endemic.
28 parliamentary by-elections in Zimbabwe, which was postponed in 2020 because of the pandemic, will now be held on the 26th of March. That's according to President Emerson Mnangagwa. The state electoral body says that local government by-elections would also be held on the same day as numerous seats have become vacant. These by-elections are seen as an early test for general elections scheduled for mid-2023. Previous national elections have been marred by allegations of violence and electoral fraud. Well, Cameroonian authorities are giving assurances that the upcoming African Games will go on without any security challenge. A senior official involved in the country's hosting of the Africa Cup of Nations has assured that the separatist rebels pose no threat to the tournament, which is expected to begin on Sunday. Ngama Emmanuel admits that last week's group fighting for the independence of Anglophone Cameroon set off an explosion in the town of Limbe, and that town is going to be hosting some of the games. But he said the government had introduced security measures to stop the rebels from attacking the event or the nearby town of Bua, where some of the players are expected to stay. Three suspected pirates detained for 6 weeks on board a Danish naval frigate off West Africa have now been released at sea after Denmark's Justice Minister waived charges of attempted manslaughter against them. The men were detained in November after an exchange of fire with the Danish military in the Gulf of Guinea off Nigeria, and that saw several other suspected pirates killed. They could have been brought to Denmark for criminal prosecution, but the Justice Ministry says there's a risk that they could not subsequently be deported, irrespective of any possible conviction. A fourth suspect, who was injured in the incident and taken to a hospital in Ghana, has been flown to Denmark, where he is expected to be prosecuted for attempted manslaughter. Denmark said it had no other option as diplomatic efforts to find a solution with Ghana failed, and it was felt he could not be released at sea. Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. A mobile application, Law Rights, is enlightening citizens about their rights and duties as provided by the Constitution and other relevant laws. The Human Rights app also provides a platform for reporting and tracking incidences of rights violation and injustice, linking victims with relevant agencies and regulatory bodies. In every country, city or state, there are laws set up to protect the rights of citizens and residents. But how useful can these laws be to the citizens if they aren't aware of them, struggle to make sense of them, or view them as boring and abstract? To create a better understanding of the law and to encourage every citizen to handle civil justice problems professionally, a legal IT research tools provider has developed Law Rights. It's a mobile application dedicated to educate and enlighten citizens about their rights as provided by the Constitution and other relevant laws in Nigeria. They found it a need to let citizens know about their rights and help them affirm it.
There came the need to let people know what their rights are. There's the need to let people know that, okay, this is your right. And then we realized that there are a lot of people that pass on what is their right. People don't actually know how to affirm their rights in this country. We let a lot of things slide by. But if you know your right, then you can be able to assert that this is my right, I'm entitled to this.
Law Rights seeks to reduce the ambiguity of the law by breaking it down using a question and answer format. In simple terms, it puts in the hands of its users important information on their fundamental human rights, dealing with law enforcement agencies, among other things.
So this is the Law Rights app. It has several features: my rights, my duties, general provisions. You could find a lawyer. You could consult the Constitution to see the full provisions, and you can report a violation if your right or someone else's right has been violated, which you would like to report. Now, under my rights, you have several topics that have been addressed there. You have child rights, doing business in Nigeria, the Omonile issue, police, taxation, electricity, crime generally, sex soliciting, immigration, employment, and on like that. And then if you click on any area that is of interest, you see the subtopics, and then there are questions under it. Now the questions and the answers provided under it, they've been done in such a way that it's easy to understand, it's seamless, it's not the ambiguous English that we find in the normal laws and provisions that we have in our country, law-abiding in the society.
With a goal to help bridge the gap between the people and the law, Law Rights wants to institutionalize legal technology in the Nigerian judiciary and put in the hands of citizens tips and legal provisions about fundamental human rights.
In Lagos State, the government has been given a breakdown of its 2022 budget called Budget of Consolidation. The breakdown was presented by the Commissioner of Economic Planning and Budget, Mr. Sam Igube, who says infrastructure development will gulp 35% of the entire budget size approved for the new fiscal year. The 1.7 trillion naira budget will be funded from a total revenue estimate of 1.23 trillion naira.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu signing into law the 2022 appropriation law on the last day of 2021, a move which signals the commencement of work for the new year. Barely a week after, the Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget is giving a breakdown of the amount allocated to major sectors in the budget. Infrastructure appears to be taking a lion's share.
Infrastructure is essential to statewide economic and social development. It is therefore important that we accelerate the completion of our ongoing project to release the inherent value of the projects to the people of Lagos. This is especially important given that this is the last full year budget of this administration. Accordingly, we have increased our investment in infrastructure by 86% over prior year budget to 619 billion. Representing 35% of the entire budget size.
The commissioners in charge of education and transportation are also on ground to give more details on their various sectors.
New classroom blocks, new schools, entirely new schools, expansion of existing schools, all these we plan to spend a minimum of like 10 billion naira.
We are spending 153 billion to complete the first phase of the red line as well as the first phase of the blue line so that we can then get it into passenger operation by the fourth quarter of 2022.
That's not all. The state government is also prioritizing existing contractor-funded infrastructure projects that will be beneficial to residents of the state.
Completion of 8 stadia across the 5 Ibile divisions of Lagos State to facilitate youth development, engagement, and community sports. The construction of the 6-lane reinforced concrete Lekki-Ekpe Expressway from Eleko Junction to Ekpe T Junction, and then the construction of a 130-bed new Mercy ultra-modern and fit-for-purpose pediatric programmed and emergency general hospital. We believe that when this hospital, which will be located at Lagos Island, is completed, it will be the largest specialist children hospital in sub-Saharan Africa. And then the construction of the Ekwebi Link Bridge to Maryland that will improve significantly travel time and alternative route options in the axis.
The Lagos State approved budget for the year 2022 includes 1.167 trillion naira for capital expenditure, 591.281 billion naira for recurrent. Total revenue is estimated at 1.237 trillion naira. Deficit funding requirement is 521.275 billion naira, which is 21% of debt service, falls within the fiscal sustainability benchmark of 40%.
The key to the prison cell on Robben Island, once occupied by Nelson Mandela, is going to be returned to South Africa rather than be auctioned in the U.S. South Africa's Culture Minister Nathi Matwea objected to the auction that had been due to take place in New York on the 28th. He says the key belongs to the people of South Africa. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison for campaigning an end to white minority rule. 18 of those years were spent on Robben Island, an island off Cape Town. In 1994, he became South Africa's first black president after the country's first democratic elections, and he remains a national icon. And that's it on the program for today and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke. Have a great weekend.